I think in 5 years, I want to have some sort of nonprofit that, like I said earlier, you can go to for counseling and you don't have to pay a single dollar for it. So, whatever I need to do to get to that point is what I'm going to do. And I think social media is definitely one of the main tools for that because it's such a good avenue to reach people and with little effort too. Like I can go online and make a 1 minute video or a 30-second video and then reach hundreds of thousands and millions of people very easily.
Hello, everybody. This is NanaTalks. That's our third episode. We're keep doing what we've started to do. That means talking to veterans, military spouses, and talking about businesses, talking about money and veterans. So basically, we are connecting two dots, veterans with money. And I'm happy to welcome today Johnny Vargas, his military content creator. I've seen the first time, I believe, his video on LinkedIn. That was about the picking different options to start the small business for the veterans, I believe. And that was hilarious. I watched the video 3 times in a row and I could stop watching it. I've shared it with everybody I knew. I showed it to my husband because that was so hilarious. That was short, that was smart, and that was funny. And I connected to John right away and I told him that he is great. Because honestly, that was just one of the best shorts I've seen for the very long time. And he appears to be an awesome guy who responded me very quickly. And here we are today. So thank you so much. And I'm super happy to have you here today.
Yeah, thank you so much. I really appreciate that. I spent a lot of time just making silly videos, but sometimes, they end up being true and they'll be funny and true at the same time. And it's kind of in the military world, you have to bring humor to the things that might make you a little sad.
Yeah, I've heard yesterday or honestly, I do not remember. Yesterday, let's put it yesterday. I watched the video from John Graham, and he told, he shared the very great idea, at least in my opinion, that the fastest way to show your intelligence is to be funny.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, and I was thought yeah, and how about make it in 30 seconds video?
Yeah,
It's not only to be funny, right? You have to figure out how to do that super fast.
yeah, it's hard because you have to capture.
Yeah, you have to create not only the hook, but also, I don't know, stick to the point. And I really appreciate the fact that you are not talking about silly and funny stuff. You're also sharing a lot of very important news and ideas and also tips and tricks. And I really hope that you will continue to do what you're doing, because I assume that there are a lot of lives you have already has the significant influence on. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And from our conversation before, I figured that you were still in the, you were not veteran, you were still serving, you were still in the military. And it all started 12, 13 years ago.
Yeah, in January will be 12 years for me. So I've been in the active army for almost 12 years. But also next year, I will be medically retiring at some point. So I will be transitioning out of the military soon. And that's kind of, where my head is at right now, figuring out what's next, whether it be business, not business, or school. So there's a lot of things firing off and kind of pushing me towards what I want to do next after the military.
Yeah, absolutely. I can imagine that because I had similar-ish situation. The only difference was that I didn't know that I'm going to be pushed away. And 2 years ago when the war started, that was well, now apparently I have to figure out everything from the scratch. And I have
Yeah.
3, 2, bam, there you go. Yeah, I know that this transitions can be very, very hard, but always curious, especially when we were talking about service, how did you decide to go to the military from the first place? What pushed you to make that decision 12 years ago?
Yeah, 12 years ago, and just before that, I had been doing music, and I had a full-time job at the time, and I was trying to make music work. And I'm from Los Angeles, California, so there's a lot of music and acting and all that stuff out there, and that was pretty normal for everybody. And I just wasn't in a spot that I felt comfortable in anymore. And I wanted to get married, and I wanted to have a family. I spoke to an army recruiter, and initially I wanted to be a firefighter. And in California, that's actually very difficult. There's a lot of things that you need to go through to become a firefighter. So my second choice was to join the military. And I spoke with the recruiter. His name's Michael White, and still he's a great guy, and I talk to him to this day. And he explained to me, he said, you could join the military, your spouse doesn't have to work, and you can, you'll make this much money, and you can move for free to this place and that place. So I just decided to do that. And in the beginning, I didn't know how long I would want to do it. And then eventually I said, okay, well, let's make this a career. And then now, unfortunately, due to medical reasons, I have to.
That's interesting, though. Why firefighters or military? I mean, it almost felt like you picked like two hardest job you can do in California.
Honestly, I just wanted to serve people. I just wanted to help people and serve them, whether that be physically or mentally or however. And I think those two in my mind were just at the top of, very admirable things to do and just very heroic things to do. And I wanted to have that title. Unfortunately, the firefighter route didn't work, but the military route played through. It came through, and it's been working pretty well so far.
Do you feel that you kind of achieved that heroic title?
In some ways, yes, and in some ways, no, because, when I joined, there wasn't really a war going on, at least that the US was involved with directly. And I didn't do certain things that I thought I would do in the military. And it's kind of like that for everyone that comes in. It's different than you think. And, but I wouldn't trade it for anything, honestly. The amount of people that I've met and the friendships that I've grown and the people that I've grown to love, it's definitely made it worth it. And I wouldn't call myself a hero or anything like that, but there's definitely been times where, I've definitely helped men and women and families to where I felt that it was just a very heroic thing to do, and to just try to help somebody. Is That's all I wanted to do. I just want to help people.
Yeah, I'm absolutely here with you. Sometimes it's not about like medals or I don't know any other physical representatives of like being heroic. Sometimes you can change one life, right? And it's already more than enough.
Yeah.
First of all, thank you for your service. I should
Thank
have
you.
been started from there, but
No,
like
that's fine. Thank you.
it's very very important. You mentioned that now you're thinking about transition and like what your mind is like currently
Yeah.
when you are
So
considering.
4 years ago, I made a decision to I started on an exit strategy, is what I call it. And my first sergeant, Zachary Carpenter, he was one of my leaders back then. He was doing school, and I was like, "Why are you doing school? We were in Korea, and we were doing certain jobs and stuff like that." And he was like, "Well, it's to prep myself for afterwards." I was like, "Okay, well, I want to do school now," because I had done some college before the military, but it wasn't a lot. I didn't earn any undergraduate or anything like that. So I was like, okay, I'm going to do school and kind of figure out what I wanted to do. So I got I have an associate's in business management, and then I had to ask myself, what do I want to do with this college career if it goes anywhere? And I really like talking to people and helping them, especially in the mental health realm. So I was like, okay, I want to become an LPC, a licensed professional counselor. So the next step for me was to get a bachelor's in psychology, which is that one up there. So I finished the associates, the bachelor's, and I got an undergraduate certificate in mental health. And then I've started a master's program in clinical mental health. And and also what I want to do is not charge anything for it. So I asked myself, how can I help people, counsel people, men, women, families, whoever it is, but not charge them a single dollar? Like, I have to make money somehow. So that's when social media came into play, and I started making money from social media, and I turned that into a business. And now going forward, I'm going to use social media in place of my income for that I would receive for mental health counseling down the road in the future. So that's kind of where my transitioning is right now. So I'm just trying to work towards that.
That sounds absolutely amazing. And God, it is interesting because my previous guest, Carol Hink, she's also a veteran. She served in the Coastal Guard.
Mm,
And basically her idea currently is to create that sailing business, which will provide her opportunity to help PTSD veterans for free.
that's
And
amazing.
that's so amazing that a lot of veterans I'm talking with, you folks are building businesses and you're trying to figure out how you will be able to give away. And that's the first idea you're putting on the table. You just mentioned, right, that I wanted to build my business around the idea that I don't want to charge for helping veterans and families. And
Yeah.
this is absolutely mind blowing because when I moved to, especially to Silicon Valley, the
Mhm.
culture over there is all about revenue. You're not
Yeah.
focusing on the, like, the social impact or something like that. Because if you want to raise money, you have to show ARR and all the
Mhm.
crazy and fancy stuff, right? But nobody is caring about the fact, like, how much of impact have you made? How much of help or something like that? And this is such a, turning point.
I think you brought up a really good point, and it's very common for veterans or service members to want to offer something for free or at very, very low cost to other veterans or other families. And I think that's because compared to other worlds, I feel like in the military and even in the law enforcement world, the resources are very small, they're very little. And I don't think that we get enough help from whether it be mental health or physical health or spiritual health, stuff like that. So I think that's why they just want to serve other people because it means so much when somebody helps my family or helps my kids without me asking for it or without me paying for it. And I feel like that opportunity isn't given very much. So we want to create something to where it's, it doesn't matter how little you make, it's going to be available for you.
Yeah, absolutely. I do understand that. Also, recently just have seen this like whole research around the idea of giving. Which, so basically, what they've done, like the group of scientists gathered and they took 10 years, I believe, amount of data, and they analyzed this data and they've compared what was the impact of giving just money away or giving services away. And it appears if you're just giving money away, the impact you're going to make will be somewhere closer to like 7% in like positive, like, reinforcement or returnment.
Right.
While when you're giving services away, like not just money, right, but services or active help, it's going to be closer to 70%.
Yeah.
So
It's
it's
incredible.
like, yeah, it's like amazing difference. And yeah, I'm here with you that it is much more important to give just like our knowledge, our services, our ideas, rather than just, I don't know, our money or something like that. But if we're gonna getting back to the transition, you mentioned that you started to think about your exit strategy 4 years ago, and this is very, I'd say, wise and smart at the same time. This 4 year, how did you build this strategy? Because I assume that a lot of folks who will, maybe find this episode or listen to it, also gonna need these ideas or that help.
Yeah, I told myself that, and this is true for everyone, the military isn't forever. No job is really forever. You're going to stop at some point and you have to figure out what you're going to do next. And I try to tell all my soldiers this to the best you can, try to make decisions today that your 40-year-old, 50-year-old, 60-year-old self will thank you for because you made those hard decisions early on in your life. I started kind of late. I made some really poor decisions when I was, in my teen years and my early 20s, so I had to kind of make up for time, and the whole transitioning of figuring out where I want to go. It all came down to family, to job availability, and right now, you know, like I said, I'm going to get medically retired, so I'm going to have a VA disability paycheck for the rest of my life. And I also do social media, and that's remote. I can do social media from anywhere, and I get a pretty substantial amount of money from social media as well every year from TikTok and Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, all the platforms. And then the third thing I was going to do, I was like, okay, well, I still want to do school and try to do that, licensed professional counseling. And then I found these people behind me. It's a veteran ran mortgage company, mortgage team. They're essentially a bank. And I started working with them, and they've given me some opportunities to not only help servicemen and women and veterans in homes, but also to generate income to where it'll be easier for me to transition. Honestly, I've been very blessed and fortunate, and I've been able to network just like you and I are talking today. Like, I just love networking with people, and my rule is be nice to everyone you meet because you really don't know what you can do for each other.
Yeah, absolutely. Can you please share a bit more about the veteran mortgage team? I
Sure.
haven't heard about them, so maybe
Yeah, of
if,
course.
again, somebody would like to hear more, let's share.
Yeah. So the veteran mortgage team, they and they're changing soon to the VA bank. They essentially change. They turn themselves into a bank, not just a lending team, but they're doing banking and insurance, life insurance, stuff like that. And they are ran 100% by either servicemen and women or veterans. So they don't. Nobody works there that hasn't served or been around the military. It takes those types of people to really understand what we go through in life and understand the kind of help that we need. So I help them with their social media work. I recruit for them. And then also I refer people to them for getting the VA home loan. And they're just an incredible organization. And I'm looking forward to everything that they're going to offer the veteran community in the near future.
In your experience, is that still the world where we're mostly saying that veterans will hire veterans or help veterans, or you can feel that this is changing?
Honestly, I think our job compared to other people's jobs, let's just say that I worked at Walmart for 10 years and then I left Walmart. And if I go to another Walmart, I'm not going to know anybody. They're not going to take me in as their family. But in the military, you serve in the military and you know people all around the world and you become friends with people instantly because you don't have a lot of time with people. You're usually only in the same location for a couple years at a time. So you just kind of join this brotherhood and sisterhood that's very, very strong. And then I think that translates into the business world to where you want to start a business or you want to be involved with the business, but you're set on helping veterans and their family members and the people that they love around them. I don't it sounds maybe from the outside looking in, it might sound a little selfish, like veterans helping veterans, but if you step back and look at everything, there's not anyone else helping us. It's the veterans have to help themselves because we're not really getting any other support from other groups. Is just how I see it.
Yeah, I do understand what you're talking about. I mean, it might feel that there is nothing out there, but I mean, from my perspective, right, I'm more on the funding side, on
Mhm.
money side, and you're absolutely right. There are not that much of, for example, grants or support programs or even loans, especially business related loans when we are talking about solely veterans. But on the other hand, there are a lot of resources available for money resources available
Mhm.
for small businesses, and if we will try to use not only one label like veterans or military spouses, but a little bit expand the amount of labels, there are
Mhm.
going to be more resources available out
Right.
there. But yeah, I tend to see that a lot of veterans and currently serving folks, they're super focused on the fact that they're veterans, solely veterans.
Mhm.
And I assume that this is because your job is so tough that you're just associating yourself with only one word, serving. How hard is that, to change, or starting to expand that understanding? Is that even a case? Because that's my assumption.
No, that's a really good point because most of the people that I see get out of the military don't see themselves as multifaceted or they just see themselves as only good at one thing, either just militant, very military things. And I try to explain to people when you serve in the military, you gain so many skills that you can't gain anywhere else as far as stress management, plan making, goal setting, decision making processes. There's certain things that you do in the military, even if you only served a couple years, that you can't get really anywhere else, and unless you work at a couple different certain jobs. I think it's funny that you bring that up because it is a struggle. There's veterans getting out of the military thinking that they can only do one thing or that they don't have a marketable job or marketable career skills, but it's the opposite. It's just like it's weird to see them have such a lack of self-confidence. And I don't know if that's the world telling them that, hey, you're not good enough. You did the military. We don't need you anymore. Or if it's something else telling them that they're not marketable.
Maybe it's just, the play of words, because the skills you brought up, right? The like time management, task management, etc. It's super hard and complex to build up those skills, and in any job you're gonna need them,
Mhm.
especially in like very complex works like management and etc. And they're like, and we're talking here about, well, jobs with pretty high salaries. And without those skills, you simply cannot be successful. I know
Right.
that for a fact. I've been a manager like for 15 almost years.
Hmm.
And I know for a fact that for me, it took 5+ years to even start understand what uh, prioritization means.
Hmm.
I was like, a snowflake. I was mama's daughter. I didn't know what we were talking here about. And
Yeah.
you got those skills. And I assumed that maybe the reason is mostly with all these like fancy words, buzzwords, and etc. If you do not know this particular dictionary, this whole world might seems very
Right.
strange to you, and you simply don't know how to put the proper cover on top of your like personal brand. But I was wondering, like, if there are any maybe organizations or anything like that who can help guys who are starting to build their exit strategies, who are currently serving, but they do know that, like, they're going to need to make that transition.
Yeah. So when you're initially getting out of at least for the Army, I'll speak for the Army. When you're getting out of the Army, you go to this TAP program. It's called Transition Assistance Program. And on the outside looking in, it seems just very superficial and like a waste of time, like quote unquote. But they really, they're there to help you learn how to build a resume, learn how to network, learn how to apply to jobs, learn how to interview for jobs, and then outside from that, the veteran services, they have an off the VSO, the Veteran Services Officer. They show you like, hey, if you need mental health, here's your resources. If you need physical health, here's your resources. If you need help going back to school, here's your resources. So they really kind of show you exactly what you need to do, but some people just don't utilize those resources as much. But I would say, yeah, use the transition assistance program, which is already given to you for free. Use all the veteran services programs, which are already free. And then there's other organizations out there, like for the mental health specifically, there's a nonprofit organization called QRF Up. And QRF stands for Quick Reaction Force or Quick Response Force. And in the military, that's a team that if you're in trouble, like let's say that you were on a mission and you got in trouble and you had to radio up something, they're already ready and they're on their way to you to help you, to get you out or to back you up or whatever the case may be.
Mm-hmm.
So now they do that, but for mental health, and it's a free app on a phone, and you just hit a button, and let's say you're going through a bout of depression, or you having ideations of taking your own life or something. They call you, they get the police to you, they get counselors to it's basically an all around just resource to help you mentally. And there's a lot of things like that. You just have to go and look for them, and we just need to talk about them more.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for sharing. That was the main reason, right? To share and to get all of that. And how about like if, for example, I'm serving and I'm thinking about my exit strategy, but I do not see myself as the employee. I want to build a business. So where should I go?
Like if you're feeling those things, I mean, there's every military base has an education center. And the education center is not only just for school, but it's different resources that pertain specifically to like, hey, I'm done with the military. Like, let's go get a job, or let's go figure out how I can start a business, or figure out how I can do this or that. So definitely uh, the education offices on every military installation. That's where I would go. And also different leaders in the organizations, we have we're supposed to have awkward conversations with our soldiers, with our subordinates, for people like that they're like, hey, I'm done, or hey, this is not for me, or I want to do this. And then we're supposed to be the subject matter experts of how to get that soldier the help that he or she needs. So I think that's also why we feel inclined to help other veterans when we get out, because we're responsible. Like when you're a senior or mid-level leader in the military, you're responsible for, you could be responsible for 4 soldiers, you could be responsible for 36 of them or more, but and their families. And you have to know, maybe this person's spouse is having a baby, maybe this person's spouse, or maybe this person has a family member that's going to pass away. Like, we have to know these personal things about these people. So I don't think you would have an issue if you were in our shoes, because somebody would be there, should be there to really help you navigate through that.
I got it. The point, like, why I'm asking you, because basically I'm still getting back to the video, like, started our conversation from, right? It's funny when you're watching it first time. Well,
Right.
okay, all 3 times in a row. But like afterwards, I started to realize that, as you've told, right, we have to put some humor into our life because it's not that funny. So it might be very complex to pick the industry or to pick the business you wanted to work with or you wanted to build, and sometimes you're trying to make the super obvious choices or something like that.
Right.
So what do you recommend your soldiers to look at?
I think every successful business woman, every successful businessman builds a business that they're passionate about. And if you're not passionate, let's say I just wanted to sell t-shirts. If I'm not passionate about t-shirts, it might be successful, but I'm not going to be happy in the end. So I would say I would get to know that person better and say, what are you passionate about? And maybe, let's say, for instance, you love working out. Okay, now we can talk about building a gym, building maybe you want to be a personal trainer, maybe you want to be a YouTuber that does fitness, maybe you want to create a supplement with no artificial colors or something. And so I think you have to get to know yourself and know what you love, know what you're passionate about, and then from there you can build something that's going to be successful.
That's absolutely makes sense, but how hard it might be in the army to do that. Just to give the context of the question, I do not know a lot about US Army, but I know a lot about Ukrainian Army.
Right.
And a lot of my closest friends are now serving. And they had their, like, civilian life, and now
Yeah.
they are serving for almost 3 years, and what they keep sharing, that, like, there are tons of different stories and aspects over there. They keep saying that they're tend to see that they are losing their personalities, that they
Yeah.
forgetting about what makes them happy, what has been over there behind their backs.
Right.
And I assuming that this is not solely about the military life, right? Because they're in the hard war conflict on the front line. And obviously that's going to have huge impact and influence.
Hmm.
But other than that, this routine, this discipline, this whole life, right? You're turning into a different person.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. I think it's difficult because, in the U.S. Army, you don't have a lot of freedom. There's not a lot of free time, but then that's up to you to figure out, okay, how do I make that time? Whether it be on the weekends or at nights or something. So that's why a lot of the businesses that military members start while in the military are online or locally, on the weekends or something. Like, for example, my last duty station was Fort Riley, Kansas, and there was a soldier and he had the most successful CrossFit gym, but he was a soldier and he still found time to build a gym, and it got huge. It's popular. And he still found that time. So if you're passionate enough and you love your idea, you love what you want to do, and you believe in it, I think there's no boundaries. It's all about how much you want to put into it. And I can understand in Ukraine right now what they're going through, especially those service members. It would be very tough, obviously, and to be uprooted and having your whole life change. I can imagine it just puts obstacles in the way that are really hard to overcome. But in the end, there's a way. If there's an obstacle in front of you, there's a way you can go around it, you can go over it, go under it, you can bust through it. You just have to figure out how to get through the obstacle.
Yeah, I've heard that idea, and I really like that even if you have, like, the gun close to your head, you do
Mhm.
not have two options. You have 22 million options. You
Yeah.
just don't see them.
Yeah.
You also mentioned that you were acting as the consultant. Is that still the case?
Yeah.
Not only
So
influencer, but consultant.
yeah, there are certain businesses that they hire consulting firms and they'll pay so much money monthly. And I've consulted for realtors, for nonprofit mental health organizations, for firearm companies, just to name a few. And they just want to know how to reach people. And some companies, they'll spend tens of thousands of dollars through a firm, through a marketing firm or a consulting firm, trying to figure out how to reach people. But then there's other companies that will come to me. They want a more organic organization, or I'm sorry, a more organic experience. And that's what I offer them, is how it's worked for me, how I reach people, and if I were them, how I would reach their community or the people, the client or customer they're trying to reach. And that's kind of, I put myself in their shoes, basically.
And how they are finding you? Like, how did it all started?
Honestly, it's been social media. The first couple saw my videos and they said, "Hey, we want what you have." And I was like, "Okay, yeah, I believe in your product, or I believe in your organization. Like, let's talk." And we came to an agreement. And that's honestly when it started becoming a business, because I had to receive monetary, like a transaction from them. And then, I just started seeing myself as a more of a brand and less a person, even though I'm a person. But all my stuff online, I was like, okay, I have to treat it like a brand for it to grow, or else it's not going to grow as well.
Right, absolutely. And how are you picking the organization you're working with? Have you ever say somebody, sorry, you're great, but
Yes.
sorry?
Yeah, I've said no more than I've said yes. Because if I say yes to everyone and people see that, then they don't know who I am. They can't, they're like, okay, well, he supports them and them and them. Like, what is he for? So unfortunately, I've had to say no to a lot of people that didn't fit my lifestyle or didn't fit my beliefs in how I think about this or this or this. But I mean, I do it in the nicest way possible. I tell them, I just don't think it's going to be beneficial for both parties. And that maybe in the future, maybe if something changes, we still have our connection and we can talk later. But I've had to say no to a lot of people, and the ones I say yes to, I really really believe in their product or organization, or I would use them, or I would refer them. Basically, like if I would refer them to my spouse or my parents or whatever, then it's a good indication of that I like them, that I would use them.
So how long does this process of basically diligence taking?
I already know about the company, like a very large firearm company wants to work with me, and I already know their history, so I already knew whether or not to say yes or no. So but then there's other people that I've never heard of them, and I start researching them up and down. I look them up, and all of their board members and all of their everyone on LinkedIn, on Facebook, on Instagram, everything. And I try to learn as much as I can about them before I speak with them. And then because I turn that into facts, and then when I speak to them, I see if they line up. Because if they're not lining up, then I know they're lying to me, or they're trying to make themselves seem different to me than they seem online. So it's a really, like you said, it's diligence. It's really, I try to do as much research as I can, and then I try to kind of feel from inside, I like this or I don't like this.
So are they also provide you the accesses to the services, or are you requesting, like, for example, if I would like you to, I don't know, to mention my product, should I send you my product samples, or like how this whole started?
Yeah, it depends. Like if it's an organization that doesn't have a tangible product, then I usually spend about an hour on the phone with them, and I really dig into what they offer, like their services, or like if I can't touch their product, if it's an online service, I said, okay, well, walk me through as if I'm a client. Like, what does it look like? And then other companies that have a physical product, I usually ask them for a product, and then I use it, I try it, and if I enjoy it, then I'll do a video about it, or we'll agree like, hey, they'll give me X amount of money if I do 3 videos or whatever. So it really depends. It's really case by case. I try not to take advantage of people, but I also don't want to be taken advantage of, because I have, across all my platforms, I reach about 10 million people a month. And sometimes it's lower, sometimes it's 6 million, but it's usually hovers around 8 to 10 million. So not everyone has that access, and I try to remind myself of that, but at the same time I try not to be stingy about it.
Yeah, absolutely. That all makes sense. Like at the end of the day, this is business,
Yeah.
right? And that's absolutely normal. And you mentioned that like you have reached to the millions of folks, and
Mhm.
I'm pretty sure that you have changed the way of, at least for somebody, how they think or how they act, and this is why, like, you are basically not only content creator, right, but you're influencer. You has the influence on their life. And I'm wondering, like, if these folks maybe who watched your videos came back to you with their stories and share with you the stories, like how you changed their lives.
Yes, and those are the things that humble me a lot, because to me sometimes it's just a silly video, but to other people it's more than that, because it's something that happened to them or something that they've experienced or seen happen, and it connects with them on a different level. And I've received so many messages and comments of, like, I'm so glad you shared that because it helped me with this and this. And it's also a tool in my mind that helps me remind myself, like, I have this platform, and one wrong decision and I can just ruin it. So I really need to make good decisions and say good things and positive things, because I can really influence people in a really, really bad way. And I don't want to do that. So I try my best to just make stuff that is going to reach people, whether it be informative, news, or funny, or stuff like that. So I just try to keep that in mind.
So just to wrap up, and while I can do that before you turn into influencer and everybody going to be covered by your PR agent, and you will turn into that plastic-ish superstar, like, royalty.
Hello.
Hello. Yeah, yeah, yeah. What are your plans? Like, what are you planning to do, like, in 5 years from now? Obviously, that's going to be this version of Johnny
Yeah.
Vargas, but like today I can ask. So what's going
Yeah.
to be?
I think I want to grow my social media platforms as big as I can and reach and help as many people as I can. Honestly, I think I want to push more towards YouTube. Like, I want to do more long form YouTube, and I want to do interviews. I want to talk to more people and not do so many skits. But at the same time, I think in 5 years I want to have some sort of nonprofit that, like I said earlier, you can go to for counseling and you don't have to pay a single dollar for it. So, whatever I need to do to get to that point is what I'm going to do. And I think social media is definitely one of the main tools for that, because it's such a good avenue to reach people, and with little effort too. Like, I can go online and make a 1 minute video or a 30-second video and then reach hundreds of thousands and millions of people very easily.
Yeah,
That's in the
that's
future.
true. But that's also a very honorable goal. And I wish you all the best. It is super important to help people, and militaries especially, and veterans with the mental health, with everything connected to it. And I really, really hope that in 5 years we're going to see this font named by Johnny Vargas, and you're going to be this type of the influencer. But like, I really, really tend to believe that your huge heart's still going to be over there
Thank you.
behind the channels, behind tons and like tons of your supporters, fans. I mean, you have one for sure. That's me. I'm like, I'm yours. I absolutely love everything you're doing. And thank you so much for sharing, for doing that. And thank you for your service, sir.
Thank you so much. And tell me if I got this right. Is it Slava Ukraine?
Slava Ukraini, Heroям
Okay.
Slava.
All
That's
right.
glory to Ukraine, glory to our heroes. That's like